What is up, everyone? Welcome to Vegan Yak, where I yak about all things vegan. I'm Walter. Welcome to the live stream. How are you doing? Tell me how you're doing. Let me know in the comments. Say hello so I can say hi back. Oh, man. How's your week going? Because my week's going good, but it's been another crazy week. But I'm super excited for the stream today, for a couple of different reasons. I'll just tell you how like my thought process has been about this stream. To be just totally honest, right up front. At first, I was just like super excited to get on and talk about anything because our guest is awesome. I'm just super excited to talk to him, have him on, collaborate. I'm just super excited. Easy breezy. You're eating some grapes. That's fantastic. I like grapes. But at first I was just like super excited to have this guest on. I was like, it doesn't even matter really what we're talking about. Whatever. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna talk about something vegan. That's good enough. And then I was like, you know what? No, we should probably have something good to talk about. And then I was thinking like, well, I just made this video. Is it going to be is it going to be the same thing, or, is it going to be repetitive? And I think you're going to find that it's not. I think you're going to find then I started to prep. I started to get my questions prepped for this and everything. And I just got like super excited about the topic. And I think we're going to hit on a lot of important areas that aren't discussed a lot that I think are valuable to both vegans and non-vegans. So I'm just super excited. And one of the things that makes me super excited is our guest. So if you're not familiar with our guest, you need to be. You need to go subscribe to the channel. All the links are down below in the description. But he is a YouTuber. He has a podcast. He's a vegan activist. And on his channel, like the videos are so good. They're educational content. You're going to learn a lot. But they're so well done. They're entertaining. And I told him the other day, they're like mini little documentaries that are just super entertaining and well thought out. And they cover a wide variety of topics within veganism about like specific animals and what about eggs and beef and everything like that. To the people that debunked Seaspiracy, a video about vegan for the boners. I mean, what else could you possibly want? And his channel has over 100,000 views. So I think we're all in a real treat. Everybody, welcome to the channel. Peace with Rhys.
What an intro. Did you plan that, or you're just this charismatic?
I planned it and rehearsed it at least 100 times. No, I just I planned it. Yeah. Peace with Rhys. Welcome to the channel. I'm so excited to have you on. Do you want to just take a second and introduce yourself and tell us, what you're all about?
Okay, well, I think you covered all the good stuff, so I'll just cover some of the bad stuff. I woke up this morning with horrible breath.
Yeah, that's a good place to start for sure.
Yeah. I spent most of my life as a vegetarian. I went vegetarian at 9 years old. And then I went vegan in 2020, so it's not really that long. But what I realized most of that time as a vegetarian, I knew what was going on. And I was lying to myself. I was putting my head in the sand until finally I had to give in, right?
Yeah.
But this gives me a little advantage because I understand the headspace of someone else who's trying to ignore the facts, So I've been vegan now for, I'm not really sure, maybe a year or so. I didn't write down the date. Everyone's got these vegan birthdays and stuff. I don't have one. I don't know when it was.
August 17th for me. Yeah, I remember. You got to go back. You got to dig. Do you know generally what time? Like, do you know what time of year or anything?
What I could do is go through my YouTube history. I was watching a lot of, I watched Earthling Ed, and then I got onto Joey Carbstrong, and the way he talked to the public, and the public were using my excuses.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, not only did I become a vegan that day, I think it was only a few weeks later I actually became an activist too.
That's awesome, actually, because I see videos like that from time to time where it's like this person immediately started like doing activism the day they like went to a cube and like saw a video and they're like, yeah, I guess I'll just join you here. I'm like, wow, that is crazy. I also love that you're more recently vegan. I'm about 4 years in myself, which I would also consider pretty recent still. But I think it's such a good point because so many people forget that like we weren't born like vegan. Most of us were not raised with like the vegan morals handed down to us or anything like that. We weren't raised in a vegan household. And people forget that like we've already been on the other side. We know what that's like. So that, yeah, I like that you have that perspective for sure.
It's definitely an advantage. And I know this is just something I'm working out myself. When you're a new vegan, especially, you're angry. You know,
Oh,
you're angry at people for making these excuses, and you're angry at society or your parents or whoever for not telling you.
yeah,
But it's so important to try to remember where you were. Like, most of us didn't know that cows needed to be pregnant to produce milk, right? We
yeah.
just thought they were milk animals, or maybe it was just me. I don't know.
I just never even thought about it. Like it just,
Yeah,
I was that, the cognitive dissonance was like, I had no, I just, it never even crossed my mind. I didn't give it a single thought. It just, I didn't question where milk came from. It was just cows. I knew that. That's it.
yeah. So that's my advice. I think just talk as if you're with them, and we've been duped together.
Yeah.
I think that's how to get the best results, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I love that. Cool. Well, we're going to dive into the topic and then we're probably going to go down like so many tangents, which I'm super excited about. But the topic that we are discussing today is that veganism is not a diet. Uh, in the video, just to sum it up for those that weren't watching, it's just about how veganism is not a diet. A plant-based diet, to sum it up for you, a plant-based diet is, of course, a part of veganism, but veganism covers so much more than that. And so I wanted to start off with getting what your reaction is to the video, or if you had any strong stance to start with, that would be great.
I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you on everything, but something that really stood out was the black shirt analogy,
Hmm.
because this is something that really irks me, is when people say it's just a diet, why do you care what I eat? And it's like, they're fighting so disingenuously. Everyone knows animals are killed for meat, right? That's why we're fighting, but you're just calling it a diet. And that makes me angry. I've never really understood how to come back at that. But your black shirt analogy is now sort of in my lexicon. I'm going to steal that.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I think it has been something that's been just like so frustrating to me lately. And I think, like you said, in the beginning and at different times during veganism, I think you experience a lot of anger because you are angry at certain things. Like you're angry at society for like masking this from you and the advertisements and the industries and potentially, yeah, like your parents for not raising you vegan or not doing more research to learn about what's going on. And so you do experience these moments of anger. And I think lately, one of the ones that I've had a hard time with, like just being like more calm about, is this, because I'll be in discussions with people and they'll be like, yeah, I just don't understand why they're protesting, like when it's literally just the food choice. And it's
Mm.
like, yeah, but oh man, like that's so crazy. And I just think about if you belittled other activists in the same way, and you were like, yeah, I don't understand why they're, advocating for people's rights. Like, look at the color of their skin. They're just animals. Like, it's
Yeah,
like it's the stuff that's like when you minimize the message and you minimize the victim, you belittle the victim. It bothers me so much, of course, because we care about the victims. Um, but yeah, I always try to go to something like I try to go to something where they're not going to be triggered by it or offended by it.
they have
If
no emotion there. Yeah,
yeah, and something that they don't use personally a lot. The black clothing is a good one, but even better would be, I think, like if you were talking to someone who doesn't wear makeup, for instance, you might be going like, okay, well, think about like if you found a mascara brand or something and they don't wear a mascara or something, and you go, if they were hurting like humans and they treated all their employees terribly and stuff like that, and then there was a bunch of people protesting for the mascara to be removed, would you really go like, well, it's just the mascara? No, you'd be like, no, that
yeah.
company needs to be shut down. Like they need to be fined. They need to be shut. Like it'd be like, but it's all of a sudden it's because it's something that they don't use personally. And they go, oh, okay, well, I have no attachment to that. I don't personally use it. I don't care about giving it up because I don't have to give it up. I already don't use it. And I think it's easy to hopefully lower the walls that way. But of course, that doesn't always happen because they know what you're doing.
I
People are
think you're right.
stupid. Yeah.
That takes you into a more logical mindset then, hopefully. Um,
Not
with
always.
the fair, with the veganism debate, I do think I do give a bit of a pass to people who don't understand dairy and eggs and why they're not ethical, because a lot of people don't.
Oh,
But
yeah.
meat, I mean, just it doesn't matter how humane or lovely the animal's life is. You cannot get meat without killing an animal. You can't
No,
pretend you
not
don't
yet.
understand that. Not yet. I'm guessing we're going to get into that later.
Yeah. We
Okay.
will. We'll touch on it. I hope we don't go too far down the rabbit hole of lab meat here, but if we do, then we do. That's not what the the live stream's about. But let us know in the comments if you want us to talk about lab meat, and our thoughts there. More than happy to. I know there's also another topic that we're going to touch on, or at least brush on a lot, which is probably what products are vegan and things like that. We're going to get into this, but I also want to give a shout out to the stream that I was just on with you, because we did just talk about should we support non-vegan companies. So I'm going to try to avoid that topic, because if you want to see that topic, you should just go check out the other stream.
Ah,
But if we get
okay.
into it, we get into it. So we'll see. Um, so yeah, I wanted to go to this first comment again, just to clarify. This was a comment by Sunnyshine45, who was on the stream last time. Sunnyshine, I don't know if you're here today, but if you are, say hello, say what's up. You were commenting a bunch of different things, Sunnyshine, and this was one of them, which was, wait, so then why is it called a vegan diet? Rhys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the key word in this question is a vegan diet, not the vegan diet, right? So that suggests to me there's many vegan diets, which I guess it's self-explanatory that there's many. But I guess if you want it to be really safe, you could say a vegan-friendly diet, I suppose. And that's the same with products and things. It's not a vegan burger. It could be a vegan-friendly burger, maybe. But that's just, we're not lawyers, we can infer things. I think a vegan diet, I think that's totally fine. But I know there are people who are going to take issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately it's called a vegan diet because I think, like you're saying, it's suitable for vegans. Like a vegan could eat this diet because it's, doesn't contain animals. And we'll get more into the verbiage, but yeah, it's a vegan diet would be suitable for vegans. But again, veganism's not just about the food that you're eating. It's about the product choices that you make, the clothing choices that you make, the entertainment choices that you make, and the effects that has on animals. So diet's just a part of it. Diet is
Right.
not veganism, although maybe it is, because we're going to get into the verbiage. And I think that's important. Before we get into and dive into the verbiage a little bit more, this is going to, I think, lead us into this. This was another comment that I had that on the surface seems really random. But this was another comment that came up. Taint Musilix. I'm not sure if that's how you say your name, but sounds great. Is it possible to buy vegan drywall? Are there some products that are required to contain animal products? I'll go to you again, Rhys, before I give my 2 cents here.
As far as I understand it, there are animal products in just about everything. Probably, my notebook here, it might look eco-friendly, but there's probably some like animal glue in there or something that I'm not even aware of. I believe like laptops and phones and things, I think they use cholesterol from animals for batteries. I'm not particularly sure.
Yeah, it's things even like, money, tires, all these things that still contain animal fats and animal parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that as a vegan who, obviously we're trying to avoid animal suffering. And sometimes like you're in a place and there's like a leather couch and you're like, oh, God, I don't want to sit I don't want to sit on a dead animal skin. Like, why? I don't want to do that. But like, do you feel the same way about other products too? Because some of them, they're just so far removed from the animal, like money, where it's like, you have to touch money from time to time, or I guess you could refuse, but like, how do you feel about those products that are just like containing these trace amounts of animal products and stuff?
I think it's so far removed that on a personal level, you don't think about these things and the gross out factor isn't there. On an ethical level, obviously it's wrong. It shouldn't be happening, but it's kind of the world we're living in right now. Unfortunately, we can want to improve society from living within it. You know what I mean? I can't avoid having a phone. If I don't have a phone, then I don't have a job. For many people, they can't avoid having a phone. That's the one that's always brought up. It's easy in, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say it's easy in every single country.
Just every single country? Okay.
Of course, yeah, because
that's a hot take.
When people think of veganism, they think your mock meats, your mock cheeses, your plant milks. But for thousands, I don't want to say thousands, for at least hundreds of years, veganism didn't mean that, or plant-based diet was still possible because we're just eating the whole plants. Somebody told me just today that the first slaughterhouse to open in India happened in British colonialism. The West introduced dairy to the East. So I think as long as your country has vegetables, has plants, if you can grow these things, then veganism is possible. Fair play. There are going to be very, very cold places, and deserts, and things like that. So maybe I want to go for like 98%.
Okay.
I can't remember what my point was.
Yeah, I don't know. But I like the fact that you went out on a limb to go to 100 first. You just said literally every human could be vegan.
Well,
Yeah, I think there
I
are.
don't know. You want to reply to that, but I've got something to add to that then.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there are obviously these remote areas, or like you said, super cold areas and stuff. And sometimes it's not possible for them to be a vegan, I guess. Again, I think we're going to have to dive into some of the language because I think it's super important about when we're saying, like, who's a vegan? And what does that really mean? But before we dive into that, what did you want to add to that part?
Exactly what you're about to say.
Oh,
That
okay.
technically you can be a vegan and eat animals.
Yeah, so I think, and this is going to lead into this because Taint Mucilix, it was such a great name. Is it possible to buy vegan drywall? Um, as far as I know, drywall, mostly, and same with like paint and things like that, contains animal products. I think drywall is the same, where it contains like cow's fat. And I think there are drywall products that don't, but I don't think that they're very available. So and they're not the ones that are going to be commercially used in houses and stuff. But I think that brings up the main point of just like, can a product ever be vegan? And I think this is the part where we're going to start diving into how important language is and when we're talking about things, because my answer, and I'd love to hear your take on it, but no, a product can never be vegan. It just doesn't exist. First of all, because veganism is defined as a moral philosophy, a way of living that's trying to avoid harming and exploiting animals as far as possible and practical, a product can't be vegan because it can't have the moral philosophy. It doesn't have a way of
Right.
life. It's not seeking to avoid anything. So you can't label it as a vegan product. You could say that that product is suitable for vegans, which I know is what we're inferring here. But I think that this is a problem possibly because, again, when we're communicating the message and you want it to be effective, you want to communicate clearly, language is important. And I think this is part of the problem with veganism being associated with a diet because it has become synonymous with a diet. And even though we as vegans have a different definition of what veganism is, that's not what society says. And so, can a product ever be vegan? No, is my answer. It can't be. It could contain animal products or it could not contain animal products, but either way, it could still be suitable for vegans or not suitable for vegans, depending on the circumstance. Um, your response.
I mean, yeah, I agree, but I feel like we're being really strict with this definition to say that certain products are not vegan. And I get your point, conflating diet with what we know as veganism. But if we start labeling drywall and cars and trainers as vegan, then suddenly it's not just about food. And, veganism is about, I'm trying to think if there's a situation where it's not about products. Maybe like a sea life show or something like that, I guess.
Mm.
You could have a vegan sea life show. I did a video on robot dolphins, so that's technically possible. So yeah, I agree, but like I said earlier, we're not lawyers, I think we can infer it, but somewhere sort of in the middle there is maybe vegan dogs. And when people say vegan dog, I don't say anything, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, that dog's not vegan; it's just plant-based.
Yeah. Well, unless it's evolved and started to tell us about its morals, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, maybe.
Their morals. uh, yeah, I feel like, and here's where I think it does matter. And this is where I guess I have a problem with things because it gets into like the vegan police, and we're talking about this on your stream too, where it's just like, okay, is Beyond Meat vegan? Like, is Impossible vegan? Are these products vegan and stuff? And of course, what's being inferred is like, suitable for vegans, but there's such a gray area of what that means. I mean, and we could just point to animal flesh. Pick any animal, cow flesh. If somebody picked it up and ate it, you would go, well, cow flesh, that's not vegan. That's not
Yeah.
vegan. And everyone would go, well, yeah, duh. Yeah, it's an animal. That makes sense. That's not vegan. But it can be. Like we've talked about different gray areas before where it's like, well, what about roadkill? You know, what about in a survival situation? Because when we talk about the people who can't be vegan, like we were just talking about in these remote areas, in icy areas or something like that, in order to survive, they might have to kill an animal and eat an animal to survive. And no vegan that I've ever talked to has gone, you know what? Yeah, they're not, then they're not vegan. Then they're not vegan.
Right.
Everyone would go like, yeah, no, in a survival situation, if you need to, that's what it's going to take. We don't expect you to starve to death. We don't expect you to die. We don't expect you to sacrifice yourself for the animal. So we would say, you're trying as far as is possible and practical, which is in our definition of veganism, to avoid animal suffering. But in your circumstance, it's going to require the animal flesh. Let me know what you think in the comments about that, because I think it's a weird thing to say that animal flesh in certain circumstances could be vegan, because again, it's about what's possible and practical. Do you disagree with that?
No, not in the slightest. I, we could talk about like what level do you take that at? Could they just move? I mean,
Sure.
maybe, but a lot of these communities I think might be too poor to be able to travel that far and things like that.
Yeah. Is it
But
possible and practical for them to uproot their entire life to move? I mean, it might
so
be.
is it reasonable to ask? I do, it seems like it's not, but on the other side of the coin, they're killing animals. So which one is worse? So that's a bit of a debate. I don't really know what the answer is there, but
Yeah, but I think this is like this is where I have a problem, because it's, I think we get so hung up sometimes, and I see this in like all these vegan groups all the time, especially like the beginner groups. They go like, "Hey, is this product vegan? Is that product vegan?" And it might be something like Impossible, where, people jump in and immediately go, "No, it's not because of this, this, and this."
yeah,
Or they go, to some sort of almond product or something. They go, no, it's not because they farmed bees or whatever it is to, make the plant and whatever. Or it's so detrimental to the environment that it's not actually vegan because it's going to hurt animals too much.
right,
I see a lot of people jumping down others' throats and going like, hey, this isn't vegan. This isn't vegan. This isn't vegan. But literally you could take any product on the entire face of the planet and say it's not vegan, because no matter what, for that to exist, it took like resources. It took resources of, you know uh water, electricity, something to get it into your hands, and or even if it's just natural and you chop down a tree, that could have been a habitat for insects, and that could have
yeah,
been a habitat for whatever. Like the apple that you ate could have been food for other animals. And so it's like, there such a thing as a vegan product wholly? Like we say there's no such thing as a perfect vegan. Well, if there's no such thing as a perfect vegan, then that's because there's no such thing as a vegan product.
yeah. A good example of that is maybe the vegan Kit Kat, which I know you brought up before.
Hmm.
And Nestle is a very non-vegan company, and not just because they sell dairy, but because they do some very, very unethical things.
Yeah, and I mean, that some of the unethical things have nothing to do with non-human animals. So that's not necessarily about veganism and avoiding animal suffering, but it does come up with if you're going to buy that product or not. But again, like it's some of those things, and I brought this up on your stream, where it's like there's people that will decide, oh, once this makeup brand goes vegan and stops testing on animals, I'm gonna go buy it. And like they've been testing on animals for 50 years, but they're like, once they go vegan, I can't wait because I've been missing this brand. I used to love this brand or whatever. How great is it that they're going vegan? I'll go buy their products again. But you could ask that same person about Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat, and they'll go, oh, I heard the CEO of Beyond chews on animal flesh, or, oh, Impossible tested on animals in the beginning, so I don't buy from them because that's
Yeah,
terrible. It's like, but if you really compare the animal suffering, like it sounds pretty hypocritical to me. Like, the choice doesn't sound very good. Like the one company has tested on animals for 50 years, but you're like, yay. Um, you know?
yeah. I think that actually comes from a place of these are supposedly vegan products. I don't know if they even call themselves that, but the vegan community claims that at least. And then they seem to be being hypocritical vegans in a public light. And I think that's what makes people so angry, if you really think about it. But just on the surface, like I don't feel good that Impossible killed, what was it, like 133 rats or whatever.
Yeah.
But But I know other companies where I buy their vegan products, they literally sell meat, you know? So
Yeah.
I get it. It is hypocritical to complain about these products and not those products. But I think it's multi-layered.
Yeah, well, and I think the problem that I have with this and where this starts to get people in trouble is again like when we just start jumping down other vegans' throats and we start like debating so much about is this product vegan, is that product vegan. And I was talking with Brianna earlier, Easy Breezy Vegan, shout out, go subscribe to her as well in the chat there. But I was talking to her earlier, and it was like one of these things where there could be someone that, let's say, they live out in the wild. There's like they don't use technology, they live in like a hut, and they are like they eat all plants. They don't buy like fur, they don't do any entertainment or anything like that with animals. Like they're like almost as vegan as it gets, except once a month they like kill a rabbit and eat a rabbit. And that's everyone would be like, and a good reason that would be like, you don't need to, obviously. So there would still be a good justification to have a conversation with them, but people would immediately like jump down their throats, be all crazy about how they're not vegan, and be the vegan police on them because they'd be going, wow, you're killing an animal and eating them. And then you could have someone that's in society like myself, who's a vegan, who's even a vegan activist trying to get other people to go vegan, but arguably would cause more harm than that person, because of the technology that I buy, or the plants that I get are from potentially monocrops or something. So there could be some more crop deaths or insecticides or something else that are being used. And I could be causing myself a bunch of problems with my health by eating a bunch of vegan ice cream. And all of a sudden then I need, medications that are tested on animals or something because I get unhealthy. There's so many choices that I could make in the modern society, and no one is going to jump down my throat. No one's going to be like, oh, well, you're eating vegan ice cream. That's not vegan. You're not a vegan. Like you're causing so much animal suffering and stuff, because they just go, oh, it's vegan ice cream, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But is it?
It's such a big step. If you want to eliminate all animal suffering in your life, that does mean moving out to an area where animals don't live. So that's difficult in the first place.
Even then, I don't think you could. Because eventually you'd step on something. Like you would take an apple, and that could have been a habitat for an insect. Like you can't avoid all animal exploitation, or not exploitation, but all animal death. It's impossible.
Okay, well, let's compare those two scenarios. Those two scenarios you gave. The guy who kills.
I feel like a fun anti-vegan bringing in like the most ridiculous examples.
Oh, it's good. This shouldn't be. I don't know what you said taint in this stream. It shouldn't be a circle jerk. We should think critically. We should have devil's advocates because we have more to learn. We're not all perfect at this, But those two scenarios you gave, the guy in the woods with the rabbit and us, it's a lot easier for that person to give up the rabbits than it is for me to eliminate suffering as much as that person did. And I'm not sure if it's reasonable to expect either.
No, and I don't think it is. And it wouldn't be sustainable for a population of 8 billion people. All 8 billion people can't go out and live in the wild and then not have a society anymore. We would need to drastically reduce our population and everything else. But even then, like, yeah, don't forget, Easy Breezy says, don't forget all the oxygen you'd be using. Literally, the only way to be a perfect vegan is to not exist.
Yeah.
Like that's the only time you're going to not cause any animal suffering ever. Every product that you buy is going to contain some sort of animal suffering that's attached to it somewhere down the chain. And that's not an argument against veganism. That's not an argument against trying to avoid animal exploitation. That's not an excuse to go eat, cows, or chickens or eggs or fish or anything like that. That's not a good excuse for that. But what I think it does do is it goes like, look, we need to be a little bit more realistic, I think, especially within the vegan community, about what we're actually trying to achieve here. Like, because we're not trying to achieve perfection. We might have that as our goal, but we obviously know that that's not going to happen.
Sure.
Like what we're trying to do is reduce to the point that is practical and possible. Right?
Yeah. And that's where we differ from many people who are not so aware of veganism. A lot of people claim that, well, I'm arguing with people, they claim that, oh, you still kill animals. I mean, I know, like, look at the definition of veganism here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Hey Reggie, what's up? Woo, this stream is lit. Let's
Oh,
go.
yeah.
I agree. It is lit. It's more lit now that you're here, Reggie. What's up? Tell us what you think about if there could ever be a vegan product and perfect vegans and what that is to you. Let us know in the comments. Yeah, I think this part about the product, no product can ever really be vegan because that's not how the word works, right? But I think that's like, again, what are we trying to communicate? And I guess this is another part that I could bring up here where we could get into just, again, the definition of veganism. The whole video that we're discussing is about how veganism is not a diet, which it's not. It's not a diet because we know what veganism is, you and I. But you and I don't get to decide what words mean individually. Right? They might mean something to us. And even the people, the Vegan Society, Donald Watson and everybody there, that coined the term veganism came up with the definition of veganism. And the definition that all vegans are operating under is the way of living, trying to avoid all exploitation and harm as far as is possible and practical to animals, right? But that's not what, if you look up veganism in the dictionary, that's not what it says.
That's right.
If you talk to people on the street about what veganism is and you say the word vegan, that's not what they think of. And Brianna and I talk about this a lot, about just like how words, we don't get to decide what they mean. Like, we don't get to decide what they mean. Society decides what they mean. But I think it causes a problem for us. And I think this is where I have a hard part about, like, how do we effectively communicate our message without confusing people, without getting people upset and minimizing the victims and thinking that veganism is a diet. Because if you look up in the dictionary, I looked up here in Webster's, Merriam-Webster, the definition of vegan in the dictionary is a strict vegetarian who consumes no food, such as meat, eggs, or dairy products that comes from animals. And then under that, it does have like this little footnote that says also one who abstains from using animal products such as leather. There's nothing in there about as far as is possible or practical. There's nothing about how it's a moral philosophy or a way of living or anything like that. It's literally a strict vegetarian who consumes no food. And if you go down below, there's another section that's like, this is the difference between vegetarian, vegan, and other diets.
Okay, yeah.
This is what it is. I mean, this is the dictionary. And again, if you say vegan to somebody that's, not familiar at all with the actual definition that we go by, then that's what they think. They're not going to think, oh, the person who avoids circuses?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
They're not going to think that, right? They think about diet. And that totally minimizes what our message is. And so what we keep doing as vegans is we keep fighting for vegan to mean what we want it to mean.
Yeah.
My question is, sorry for the longer rant there, but my question is, should we keep doing this? Like, should we invent a new word for vegan? Should we invent a new word that means what we want it to mean instead of fighting society? Or should we keep fighting for vegan to mean what it's supposed to mean?
I think there's two contexts for this. There's when vegans talk to non-vegans, where it does become, especially for outreach, it does become important to make that distinction. In typical circles where nobody's a vegan, just having that word vegan, even if they think of it as a diet, I do think it's helping. As annoying as it is to admit that. The vegan Mooncat, right, another great YouTuber, he calls his diet a whole food vegan diet rather than a whole food plant-based diet. And the reason for that is he started for health and he just knew it as a vegan diet. So that's what he Googled. And because he was Googling the word vegan, he was coming across the reason to be vegan. And now he's an animal advocate, so it was a way in for him. So it's annoying that these definitions are muddied, but it might actually be helping people accidentally become vegan.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I started, Brianna and I started eating a plant-based diet for health reasons. And even early on in our conversations, we were like, well, we're just going to say that like we're plant-based because like we don't know what else we're going to do or anything. We're just doing this diet to eat plant-based. But even
Mm.
now, plant-based has become muddled. Like, they put plant-based on a product and it contains animal products all the time. There's people that say they're plant-based, but they eat fish or they eat other animals, but they say they're plant-based. I mean, there's even vegans that say they're vegan and they eat, you know,
Yeah,
uh, fish or other animals, or they consume honey or whatever it is.
honey generally. Yeah,
And generally speaking, the vegan community says, no, that's then you're not like actually a vegan or whatever. But again, when do you get to call yourself a vegan? Like, when do you reach that point where you get to say, yeah, I'm a vegan? And when do we say, no, you're not? Like,
Hmm. I think the only person who can answer whether you are vegan is you, and you need to be able to be honest with yourself. You need to know that you personally are going as far as practical and possible. Nobody else knows your situation. But then there's a lot of trust there, you know. But generally speaking, we know you don't eat these animal products. You don't do these things. Anything you can do more than that, that pushes your definition to the max. Does that make sense?
no, I think you're exactly right. Because, and Reggie thinks here, I think you're explaining it well. Practical and possible are good words. And then Amy, welcome. How are you doing? Amy says vegan, diet, vegoons, ethical philosophy. I love that. Maybe we should change it to vegoons instead.
Mm.
And Brianna is Easy Breezy Vegan's a big fan of veganites. All the new word choices. Throw all of your new word choices down there. What should we call ourselves if we ditch vegan as a word? Um, I feel like you're right. Like, and I think this is the point that I really want to talk about, because I think it's where our focus needs to be, is like everybody needs to be trying to do their best to do whatever's possible and practical, but that's not like product specific. I think about teenagers, because teenagers might be able to say like, I'm really trying my hardest to avoid all animal products that I can. I don't buy clothes that have animal products and all this sort of stuff. But my parents, they force me to still eat dairy. They've let me give up meat, but they still make me eat dairy because they think I need strong bones. And I've had the
Yeah.
argument with them 100 times, but they won't let me go vegan. They won't let me go vegan. That person's a vegan. Like,
Yeah.
the whole vegan, a lot of the people in the vegan community go, no, they're not, because they still consume this product. But again, no product can be vegan, because veganism is not about a product. It's about a way of living, trying your best to avoid animal exploitation as far as possible and practical. I would call that person a vegan or a veganite or a vegoon or veganators. Alicia, thank you. Thanks for the comment, veganators. I love all the new words for vegans. We're going to go by these from now on. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Would you call that person a vegan? Would you call that teenager a vegan?
Oh, certainly. If they're doing as much as they can, I know what it's like being a teenager. You live
Yeah.
under your parents' rules. I think, like I said, I was vegetarian from 9. I'm pretty sure all my school shoes were made of leather, or at least most of them, because my parents bought them. And even though, they respected my choices and stuff, I think that's just not something they thought about in the shoe shop. But I was, I'm not suddenly a meat eater or like a non-vegan or non-vegetarian or anything because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. I think that you are trying your best, right? And I just think, especially everyone's in different circumstances. Everyone has different barriers. Everyone has different things. I don't want this to become a conversation about it, how now all of a sudden it's an excuse to go eat animals, or an
Right.
excuse that people are going to go use to do something that they obviously could practically and possibly avoid. But I think the word that you talked about is so important, which is trust. And I think if we're going to trust other people because we know that it's about whatever they're doing as far as is possible and practical, we need to stop being the vegan police in this way. Like, I'm totally fine with challenging. I'm totally fine with educating people, because like if you don't know about impossible testing or whatever, you might want to know that so that way you can make the choice for yourself. But it might not be possible or practical for you to research every single product that you own and know exactly what the problems are down the chain of how it affects animals negatively. And so it's like, what's possible and practical for every single person is different. And if we're going to put that huge gray area in the definition of our moral stance, we need to trust that people are doing that. And I think when we jump down their throat and we just go, no, you're not a vegan. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's not vegan. You're not a vegan. Like, no, we can't say that that's not vegan because no product can ever be vegan. So I think again, it's fine to educate, it's fine to tell people, it's fine to challenge, but um, I do have a problem with, and it's not everybody obviously, but we're in enough groups. We see what's going on in the comments and stuff like that, and people sometimes they get nuts, and they
Yeah.
just start attacking other people that are legitimately. I feel like I trust them. I feel like they're doing their best, and people are just jumping on them.
There are two sides to this, though, because if this gray area we're talking about becomes sort of widespread when we talk about veganism, people are going to hide behind it. And people are going to say, oh, I could never give up cheese, but I am still vegan just because
Yeah,
they love cheese so much. It's the last thing I gave up. But I wasn't vegan until I gave it up because I knew I could do it. But people are going to hide behind it, definitely.
definitely. But they already could, right? I mean, does that change just because of our messaging? Or does it create a little bit more of an honest conversation? Because I think in that example, you're right. Someone could say, oh, I'm trying my best. I do buy a block of Munster every single day. That's okay. Yeah, people could be disingenuous. People could be lying, but they could just be doing that anyway, right? I
Right.
mean,
But now we're giving them permission to use the word vegan
mm,
when
but I
they're
think
not.
but we already have. It's in the definition, right?
If they're honest, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to rely on them. And again, I think this goes back to what you're saying. We have to have trust. Um, and I think it's hard to do that. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's easy, because I have friends that message me recipes and tell me that they're going vegan, and I love it. I love it because it's like, yes, 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 yes. And then maybe they'll send me a recipe and they're like, I'm trying this one today. It does have honey, but I'm trying. And it's hard to just not be the vegan police and go, no, you're not a vegan
Yeah.
then. You suck. You need to be better. But again, you could literally turn to every single vegan. I could turn to you and just go, yeah, but look at your notebook. You're not a
Yeah.
vegan. Because if we define vegan by the products that we use rather than the intentions behind what we're doing and what we're trying to do and change our habits, then no one's vegan. Then veganism doesn't exist.
It's very true. I will say, I don't know if it's a tangent, and
I
it's
love
a hot
tangents.
take again.
Hot take.
I think there's something to be said for shaming. I think it's a
Hmm.
very, very useful technique, and it's the reason I'm vegan now. Uh,
This is a hot take indeed. Oh man.
I've always sort of been interested in veganism, and I always said I was vegan in my heart, but my actions didn't match. So I joined Vegan Circle Jerk, the Reddit group,
Yeah.
and they hate vegetarians in there.
Yeah.
I had people calling me an animal abuser and saying, I'm responsible for, I'm not going to say the word, but what we do to cows and stuff like that. And they weren't wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, I transitioned into veganism as well over a few weeks. And that whole time, just, I had some cow's milk in my coffee today. And just reading about what happens to baby cows and stuff like that, and saying, you're responsible for this, Rhys.
Rhys specifically, it's all you. We know that you're the cause of this in society.
I can't argue with it. If you're self-aware and you're honest with yourself, you can't argue with that stuff. And I felt bad, so I had to give in.
No, I completely agree. It is a hot take, but I think this again. I think it's about what our intentions are and what our messaging is, and I think this
Yeah.
has a lot to do with again language and what words we're using, and that's why we're going to switch to veganators or veganites instead. But Amy says we are a gang in a way. We are aggressive after and force our beliefs on people. Yeah, yeah, we do. People get mad about this a lot. I was in a heated debate in the comments of one of my videos over the last couple of days where they're like, I just don't like that you're forcing the beliefs, that whole thing. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, guess what? I'm an activist.
Yeah.
Like, what do you hate all activists because they're out there forcing their beliefs, or is it
Do we
just that?
say this about feminists?
Yeah, do we say this about people that are,
Some people do, but they're
right?
assholes.
Right. Fair enough. I didn't tell you about cursing on this channel, and you
Sorry.
gave me three. I have no limits over here, but so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's like I feel like that is exactly right. It's like you can't go to other activists and say that. It's you wouldn't do that because you agree with what they're doing, whether that be for women's rights, black rights, gay rights, other animals' rights that you care about with dogs or cats or whatever else. Like you wouldn't be like, I can't believe they're out there forcing their beliefs about how dogs shouldn't be abused in dog fights. Like, no, you're just mad that we're out here advocating for a change that causes you to change or
Yeah.
is calling for you to change. But sometimes we can be aggressive. Now, I think this is a good point of topic, and maybe it is a tangent a bit, but it is about like what forms of activism are effective. So many people do hate how aggressive some vegans are. We see it with direct action and activists. I follow and see a lot of things from Tosh Peterson, Vegan Booty, uh, which is and she's so good. Like I love everything she does. People think it's just absolutely insane half the time. Vegans and non-vegans, they think like this is the worst way to convert people. And I'd love to have your take on what these aggressive forms of activism are, because obviously you're okay with shaming. So maybe there's a form of activism you're not okay with. But for me, it's like I want it all. I want it
Yeah.
all until someone can show me a study to go, this form of activism is entirely ineffective for these reasons. I want it all because somebody might connect with that direct action person. Someone might connect with someone more like a Tabitha Brown or an Earthling Ed. Someone might connect with both of them. Someone might have been like, Brianna and I were talking earlier about like a good cop, bad cop. If you reviewed people and you said what was effective for the strategy, which cop was effective, no one's going to vote bad cop. No one.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one's going to vote bad cop. They're all going to be like, I hated bad cop. Bad cop's a piece of shit. But what they are going to say is, oh, the good cop was great. I love good cop and stuff. But good cop wouldn't have been good cop without bad cop. so it's like, it's the whole strategy that worked, and so for me, until someone can provide a study or something that says this form of activism is not effective, I think it's all good because there's people like Tosh who are getting crazy media attention that might be the first thing that someone sees that might plant the seed.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you think there's activism that's not okay?
No, because like you say, we need different methods for different people. We all have different personalities. Shaming worked for me. It's not going to work for my grandmother.
You might. I'm going to shame the hell out of your grandma.
You do it. Well,
invite her on.
People like Tash Peterson and DXE years ago when I was younger, I thought they were crazy.
Yeah.
What are they doing? I thought they're making vegans look bad. I didn't know what good come out of it, but I finally looked into it, and so much media attention. Just getting the word vegan into the papers is so good for veganism. It gets people thinking, like you say, it might be the first time. Or, I've heard people say it takes 10 or 100 mentions of the word vegan or something for you to finally click. So it gets you that bit closer. And it starts conversations. Oh, did you see that girl shouting at that butcher? And, who knows where that conversation is going to go. I've been on the street asking people to sign my petition to legalize dog meat. And people have talked to each other. I see them when they walk away and they're talking to each other about it. I think it really works.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think, unless you're doing something really unethical or something that's breaking your other codes of ethics, like, if you're out there harming other humans, not hurting their egos with your words, but actually physically hurting other humans, I go, you know what, come on, there's better ways, right? But yeah, as far as using our words and quote unquote forcing our beliefs, I think every single way that we can get out there and force it, the better. And again, this is how a lot of social movements have worked. there are people that are going to be out there having the kind conversations. I prefer those personally. I prefer doing this rather than going and doing a disruption or something. I like being good cop. And maybe that's just me not having the spine to be bad cop all the time. But I feel like I'm so thankful for the bad cops, because they're getting to people and they're creating a lot of things.
Yeah.
Amy Lee, Tosh is hardcore. We all low key want to be be like her. Yeah, yeah, definitely, no doubt. I saw Taint Mucilix on. I read one of your comments, and we love your name. Today on a raw vegan channel, the dude said that we all cheat once in a while on animal foods. Interesting. And then you followed up and said that there's no cheating. There's only veganism and carnism. Yeah, I feel like I don't quote unquote cheat. I don't have animal products myself. It's not like, oh, you know what? On a Saturday morning, I do enjoy some killed, tortured animals. So I don't cheat. But
Mhm.
again, like it's what's the intention? What's their possible and practical? If they legitimately like live in an area where they couldn't, or like I gave the example of the teenager earlier, where their parents still force them to have things and they call it cheating on their vegan diet or whatever. It's like, well, no, you're still vegan. You're just not able to do this one part of it yet. I don't want to, I don't want to let that be an excuse where people are like you're saying, but there has to be trust, but I don't want it to be an excuse. And this is what more than often happens where someone says, oh, you know what? I can't be vegan because I have this really specific food allergy, or, this condition that I have to have animal protein and stuff. Most of the time, what they're saying is not even accurate.
Yeah.
But it's also super disingenuous because they also don't follow up with every other aspect of my life. I try very hard. Like, I don't wear leather, I don't wear fur, I don't get products that are tested on animals. Like, I don't go to circuses or zoos or anything like this. I try my hardest in every other aspect. I've been to 6 doctors. They all say I have to have this, amount of animal protein. So I consume the least sentient amount that I can from like oysters or something once a month. So I'd be like, wow, okay, you're a vegan. But most of
Yeah.
the time, that's not what it is. It's, oh, well, I have to have animal protein. So also, I guess just screw it. I'm going to be whatever I want to be and not have any regard for animals in any other aspect of my life. I don't know if do your conversations go like that, or are they different?
No, you're right. But I always feel so awkward to reply because there's that chance that they're not lying.
Yeah.
But what I've started to do is start referring them to vegans who have the same issue. So they might be like, I can't go vegan, I'm gluten free. So send them to Gluten Free Vegans, which is a group on Reddit. Or, I can't go vegan, I live in India. I'll send them over to Soytheist.
Yeah.
I'm trying to choose between reason and excuse, but let's say every reason. There is a vegan who has the same problem or the same issue as you have. So just find out what you can do.
Yeah, I agree. And again, that maybe they're in a circumstance that other vegans not,
True.
where it makes it harder for them. And again, I go back to the teenager example or something. Um, but yeah, you're right. I mean, and I think that's where it's like you said, like 98% of people, like a lot of it is just excuses. But I think we do have to have that trust. Tate Mucilix, there's no ongoing journey. The journey ends as soon as you're educated on what happens to animals as a result of your diet. No, I'll disagree. I disagree with that. I know where you're coming from, but I don't think the journey ever ends because, again, there's always going to be some product that you're using that you could probably minimize a little bit more, something that you could do a little bit better. I think you're right in the fact that, like, the mindset, once you've changed your mindset, like, there's no going back. There's no cheating on your mindset. Like, there's no cheating on your moral philosophy. You just got to keep going, you know? But the journey does continue. And I saw a study. If somebody has this study that I just saw, like, I think it was a recent study that just came out that was talking about the vegans that stay vegan the longest. I don't know if Rhys, you saw this one, but
Yeah, I think I have.
it is the people that are making gradual changes rather than going overnight. Which I didn't do that. I mean, but there's no such thing as an overnight vegan. there's no such thing as an overnight anything. Like we don't know what seeds have been planted in our mind and when we decided to make
Oh, I
changes
see.
and all. Like, you might have changed that action and not done little small steps and stuff, but I didn't. Even though I say I went vegan overnight, once I watched documentaries and stuff, because I did. We got rid of our food, we changed everything. I'd never bought an animal product again, at least not intentionally. So yeah, like it's overnight, but I didn't stop there. Like, I keep learning things about stuff that I do. I keep learning things about the products that I buy or the choices that I make that I could do better on, and I'm open to changing those things. It is a continuous journey for me. Do For you, I don't know if you remember, and like you said, there was products when you were younger that weren't, that are still made from animals that you were probably using, like your shoes and stuff like that. But for you, do you feel like you're done? Is the journey over for you?
No, I'm learning more all the time. I was open to lab meat for a while, and then I did some research on it, and I learned about FBS, fetal bovine serum,
Yep.
which is currently being used. I think the first company just started that isn't using it,
Yeah, I think there are some that are not. Yeah.
but that requires killing a cow and then killing the fetus or baby inside. Then, why did I
Yeah.
talk about that? What was my point?
Just if you remember, what was your point? What are you rambling on about, man? That's me. I'm the rambler. You can't ramble. There'll be too much rambling here. No, I was just saying, like, with your journey, do you feel like
Yeah.
you're done? Lab
So
meats
yeah,
and
I'm learning all the time. How can I be done?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think lab meats, that's such a touchy topic, I think, for people, because I think it makes us face the real definition of veganism. And I like it. I like lab meat for that reason. Because it's all about how it's not a diet. Like, we're not tied to any one solution.
Yeah,
If it was proven that lab meat was going to cause less suffering to animals than plant agriculture, especially because we didn't advance plant agriculture, and I bring this up in the video for Veganism is Not a Diet. Vegans are kind of they're tied to eating the lab meat because it's about reducing animal suffering as far as is possible and practical. And if it's the best solution, then we need to move forward with it. Now, I don't think it is, and I don't think that'll ever happen, especially when you consider other aspects of, like, how environmentally friendly it's going to be, how realistic it's going to be. It can't replace all food, all these other sorts of things. But in theory, if lab meat was going to cause less animal suffering, because let's say they do get to the point where they don't need any growth serum that's going to contain animal products, they can use synthetic for all that, and one cow tissue pull could feed 8 billion people for, let's say, like 20 years, or maybe for an infinite amount. Let's just push the example to an extreme. Would you eat it?
from an ethical perspective, why not?
And let's say they altered it so it wasn't as negatively affecting your health.
No, it's not healthy. It's really disgusting for me.
But I think that's a good point, because what if a non-vegan to you right now said, I think vegan food's disgusting?
I'd ask them what they think vegan food is for a start. I know what they're referring to, but I do ask the question to make them think, oh, yeah, I like potatoes.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think it's such an excuse these days. I mean, in the UK, in America, in Canada, we've got so many different brands and products now. Maybe you don't like this vegan burger, but you probably love this one.
Yeah.
And it's not going to have gristle. It's
Yeah.
not going to have fat, or I can't remember what else is in meat, really. It's been so long, but sometimes you crack an egg and there's blood in there.
Yeah.
We don't get any of that.
But in lab meat, in theory, there probably wouldn't be a lot of that too. Again, I don't think lab meat's going to ever replace all animal products, and I think that's one major limitation of it. But and again, I don't think this hypothetical situation is ever going to happen, so I don't think it really matters. But I think for us to be genuine and to say, like, if somebody, I think a lot of vegans, I don't think we're alone in this. I think a lot of vegans would start giving a lot of excuses that sound a lot like anti-vegan excuses that sound like absolute nonsense of why they wouldn't eat the lab meat.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it either. I definitely don't want to eat it. The idea of eating any sort of animal flesh, whether it's fake or not, is not really great to me. I mean, I eat some like mock things from time to time and stuff.
Some of the mug
Uh,
things are too realistic, aren't they?
yeah. Oh man, pretty much like every party. We were just at a party the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, there's a Beyond Burgers and stuff," and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I was like, I didn't get one because I'm like, yeah, I don't trust it. And where did you cook it? What's going on here? And then
Yeah,
I
you need to be at a
I
house to
saw,
trust this.
yeah, I saw others eat it, and I was like, okay, all right, I don't know, we'll see. And then of course it has the very distinct Beyond taste. So I was like, okay, all right, fine. But some of them are just like so close that I'm just like, "Ugh, I hate it because especially in restaurants,
Oh
like
yeah,
you just feel like I can't trust this at all. You know, uh, so it's really tough. But I think that's like a lot of like, would you buy a burger from this place if it's on the shared equipment or whatever it is and stuff like that? And people are like, no, I don't want it in the animal fat and these things and blah, blah. And I try my hardest to avoid those things as well with like shared
sure.
equipment. Sometimes it's not always possible per se. But like, uh, dude, you're eating like French fries or like a Beyond Burger. What are you talking about? Your health? It's
True.
already not healthy, and the money that's going in there is going into the POS system under a vegan burger. So they're going to ring it up, and when somebody crunches the numbers up at the top and goes, "Where's our who's buying what things? What things should we cut?" They're not going to go. Oh well, the shared equipment. They're going to go a vegan burger was sold. So
Yeah.
I think the money is in the clear a little bit there, but like yeah, trash carcass. It perpetuates the idea that we need animal flesh. I assume you're talking about lab meat, or I think roadkill for that example too, or people that do like I forget what they call the people that eat like trash or secondhand. Uh,
Um, Freegans.
Freegans. Maybe that's what we need to claim. Maybe we take over the freegan name instead of veganators or veganites. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it does. It does perpetuate that. I do understand that part of it. But then I think at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but also, I don't know. Like, is somebody really looking at me eating roadkill or something and going like, we're
Oh
supposed to be
yeah.
eating meat?
Fancy a
Like,
bit of that.
look at that guy digging through the trash and eating secondhand stuff. Well, that's perpetuating that. Like, definitely, I get it. It's much more with the lab meat and even mock meats and stuff for sure. And I don't like that part of it. So that's a fair point. Um, fair point for sure. Chris, sup, vegan boys? What's
What's
up,
up,
Chris?
Chris?
How's it going? Chris is a friend of mine who's not vegan. We're gonna make him vegan someday.
Okay.
We're gonna get him. Chris, I'm gonna get you. It's gonna it's gonna happen. That's what I tell every single one of my friends is I'm gonna get you. It's not what is Easy Breezy saying here? It's not gonna have gristle, so it won't be the same. America. Yep. America.
I don't see why not, though. Maybe I just have a fundamental misunderstanding of the biology.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I feel like it's people love to pretend what lab meat can become. They're like, well, they're going to be able to alter some of the health aspects, and yeah, that's true. Like, it wouldn't contain antibiotics and stuff like that. You wouldn't need some of
Right.
those things, and you might be able to chemically alter some of the content from fat and stuff like that. But if you continue to alter it so much, it will not be an animal product anymore. Like,
True.
if you change the entire chemistry and nutritional profile to mimic kale, it's going to be kale. Like, that's what it will be. It'll be they have lab created kale. It won't, like, you can't turn lab meat to kale and then have it still be like that. So it's the same thing with vegan mock meats. Like, you can't, you can make it taste like animal products and stuff so far, but it hasn't maintained the nutritional profile of like an apple, like, or
Yeah.
of just a whole soybean or something. It's not the same anymore. So they can only push it so far. I mean, who knows? Maybe science will get us there at some point in time. Oh, look at this. Chris had a vegan smoothie today. Spinach, yogurt, blueberries, almond milk. Was the yogurt vegan yogurt? See, look, immediate vegan police. I'm on you. I'm on you. Is it vegan? What? Let us know if that was vegan yogurt. Are we getting to you, Chris? Are you a vegan now? Let us know. I think you are. Like I said, I'm gonna get you anyway. Doesn't matter. Let's see here. Trash carcass. I had a great talk with Serena Farb about this. Please check it out if you can. Serena Farb, great person, born vegan. I have an interview with Serena up on our channel as well. I love, like, even you, Rhys. I mean, you've been vegetarian, like you said, since you were 9, and then vegan when you said 20, right? So, but like at a young age, started to make changes like that. And I think that's so crazy. I have a friend that's been vegan for like, I think 30 years, something like that now. And whenever I meet anyone like that, I'm just like, wow, like you did it. Like you're the real MVP.
Yeah.
Because now we have Beyond Burgers. It's going mainstream. It's growing at such a crazy pace. We have easy to spread information through things like this, YouTube and Netflix and all this stuff. It's so easy to be vegan now that I look at people like that that were born vegan and maintain that lifestyle the entire time, or went vegan at an early age, even like Joaquin Phoenix and stuff. And it's just like, wow, you're the real MVP.
I remember only 10 years ago, you could only get soy milk in health shops.
Yeah.
So 30 years ago, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I love when people are like, yeah, it's not going to change anything. Nothing's changing. It's like, yeah, just look at the stores, like look at the advertisements on TV and stuff like that. Like 20 years ago, it was rice milk, soy milk in health
Yeah.
shops. Now it's coconut milk, pea milk, almond milk, flax milk, hemp milk, cashew milk, pea milk, whatever. I mean, I think you can milk anything nowadays. I'm pretty sure. Pretty confident about that. Chris, oh, probably not the yogurt. See, Chris, that's still good, man. Good on you for trying the vegan smoothie. There's so many, like, especially yogurt, like so many great vegan yogurts that are, I mean, yogurt, you can't tell the difference. It's the same thing. So definitely get some vegan yogurt for the next one for sure. Amy's got a question for you. I love this. Rhys, when you were young, were you teased for being vegetarian by your peers because kids are ruthless? And also shaming's great. That's a quote from Rhys.
Yeah, I was, but I was also militant. So like I am now with veganism, I was for vegetarianism. Which is funny to laugh now, but at the time I thought, I didn't really understand veganism. So yeah, one thing that's always stuck out to me is one of my friends at the time put bacon on my school locker so that I would have to touch it to get into my locker. And they thought that was hilarious, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
But at the same time, I think if someone wants to tease you, they'll find a reason to anyway. It doesn't matter if you're vegetarian or not. If you're militant like me, then yeah, they'll use that. But if I wasn't like that, they might make fun of me because I had big ears or, anything.
Yeah. I think, Amy, you're right. Kids are ruthless. And so I think, yeah, Rhys hits it. Like, they're going to make fun of you anyway. What are you going to do about it? We get made fun of all the time now. We're vegans. We're in that group. We're pretty hated. Statistics agree. Science agrees with that. Well, vegans are hated. But I don't care that we're hated. I think
we are big boys, though.
Well, I feel like I don't care that we're hated and that we're sometimes treated poorly and stuff. Again, I think it's like people are just like whenever you confront someone about something that they're doing, it's immediately defensive. They have to make fun of you. They have to belittle you because if so, then they can feel like they're justified in their habits. So for me, it's like a part of their change if they're like that. Of course, I wish they weren't, but it is what it is. And then the thing that I don't like, though, is just how unoriginal people are. Like that's like if you come up with a really like original burn on vegans or something, like I see some non-vegan memes and they are funny sometimes. But most of the time they're not. And it's not because they're not like funny. It's because I've seen it like 1,000 times. It's a bacon emoji, it's a steak emoji, it's somebody posting a video where it's like, you're so unoriginal. Like just come on. Like if you're gonna insult me, do it. Like do it for real. Talk about me. Hit me where it hurts. Don't just post a picture of bacon. That's nothing. That does nothing to me. I was a non-vegan for 27 years. I know what bacon looks like. Hit me where it hurts. Give me something real. Don't you just want to see? You're a pro shamer. I know that's you're okay with it anyway.
It makes activism easier, but it's boring.
Yeah. And it's boring. That's the problem. It is boring. Let's see here. What's going on? There's the conversation going on here. It's about what's possible and practical. KFC is completely avoidable. Grocery stores usually aren't. I don't know the full conversation here, but it is. But KFC for some people might not be completely practically avoidable or whatever. I think about like food deserts and stuff. And are they going to be able to travel for 2 hours to get to a grocery store? I don't know. Everything is about circumstances. Possible and practical is different for everybody, and I think that's what this whole stream and conversations about is like that. Products could be vegan, they could not be vegan. Like it depends on the circumstance. It depends on the person, what's possible and practical for them, and we have to trust them at times. Doesn't mean we can't shame them. That's from Rhys. Rhys says we can shame everybody. Uh, let's see here. I don't know what happened, but Easy Breezy is make fun of Rhys for being vegetarian. And by I mean Rhys, don't we mean take a piss with Rhys? Isn't that the thing? Someone said I had to call you piss with Rhys.
Okay.
So it happened. Mark it in the books. 1 hour, 11 minutes in. Piss with Rhys.
I just did my master's, humble brag, and my lecturer always called me Rhys. And I'm from the UK. It's a common name, Rhys, in the UK. But he seems to never have heard the name before. I know it's spelled in Welsh, it's Rhys.
Yeah.
But Rhys?
See, language is important, and this is the whole point. And the name is hard to spell. Who is famous people with the name Rhys?
Do you know Rhys Evans?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to think with my spelling, because my country has only got 3 million people in. And very, very few of those people can actually speak Welsh anyway. So,
gotcha.
But sort of where I grew up, Rhys was a big name.
Gotcha. Okay. I think it's John Rhys Davis, right?
Yeah, that's right. My last name is Davis as well. I'm Rhys Davis.
You're Gimli.
Yeah.
That's what we've discovered on this stream. And that Trash Carcass says we can still shame. Hey.
You have permission.
There's few takeaways from this stream. Also, someone was talking. A bunch of people were talking about your background, Rhys. They want you to play the piano.
Yeah, sure.
I think you might need some lessons or something.
You know, I was on with Hench Herbivore a while ago, and he had this background, and I was like, man, he is making bank.
Yeah,
and he's got like 50,000 subscribers. And I was like, you can make that much?
Wow, that YouTube ad money.
Choose this. Yeah, I asked him. I asked him go play the piano, and he said, "Oh, it's that YouTube ad money." Like, oh wow, I really believed him.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if people are aware of how much like YouTube ad money is. I'm not even a partner yet, so I don't get it, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot. So,
I think it averages out, or at least it used to, at $4 per 1,000 views. That's like a rough average.
Yeah, it's not crazy. That's not where a lot of YouTubers are making their money. So just so people know. I want to go back, get a little bit back on topic here. I just want to ask you, like, how important do you think specific language is in our movement, especially as activists? I think you pointed out that there's two, like, there's many different situations where you're going to talk about veganism possibly, but there's two like main ones, which would be one, like during some form of activism. And then there's more casual conversations or something that might be happening with your friends or strangers that you just met or something like that. So how important do you think specific language is?
We're talking about like vegan, plant-based, flexitarian, all that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And being specific with what veganism really means. So that way people aren't confusing it with a diet.
Yeah. What I wouldn't mind is if people went to call it a vegan diet. I'm happy with that. It does create some problems. People tell me they're vegan, but they just do it for the environment. So maybe they still go to the circus or something. Or they do it for their health, so they have a cheat day every now and again. It doesn't matter unless you're inside a vegan circle. And when we're discussing the ethics of veganism and someone's like, oh, that's not vegan. Almonds aren't vegan because they create water drought or something like that. Okay, yeah, that's bad, but that's not what veganism is. Yeah, I think in typical daily life, I use the word vegan to mean food a lot of the time. Is that vegan? Can you read this? I live in Thailand, so I asked my girlfriend, can you read this? Is it vegan? You know, I do it. I'm a vegan activist.
Yeah.
And like I say, sometimes it can be helpful, but I also get frustrated sometimes.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I wonder how good we need to be. Like, how precise we need to be with our words and with our language, especially when we're doing activism? Actually, no, in both situations, I think, because during activism, I think it's easier to be specific because you're very intentionally trying to share this message. And the amount of activists that there are that are really having like full on conversations about it is pretty, it's not a huge part of the population, probably. Like the numbers aren't very high already. The percent of vegans is not like 50% or something. So the amount of vegan activists is probably pretty low. So how many times that's happening in conversations? Probably not, which is probably why society has come to the conclusion that vegan is synonymous with a diet. Because when it's happening in other conversations with someone that you just met or a friend or something like that, you possibly don't want to get into the conversation. You don't want to like be awkward, especially with someone that you just met. And so you're like, oh yeah, I'm a vegan. And they're like, oh, so you don't like eat animals or anything? Yeah, okay. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes people will shy away from having that conversation, or they won't even bring up veganism because again, they just met this person. We don't want to be that vegan. People already stereotype us as the people that are just going to bring it up out of the blue all the time, and that like never happens, unless you're doing activism, But like, how important is it that during that moment we give some inkling to like it being what it is, which is the moral philosophy, which is the way of living trying to avoid harm, not a diet, not just a diet at least. How important is that?
I do use the word plant-based, just in normal circles too. I'll say, this is a plant-based meal, or this person is plant-based. I won't say he's not vegan, he's plant-based. I'll just casually say he's plant-based. And I think like you, I have like this personal rule that if I'm having personal interactions with people I'm likely to see again, or like friends or family or something, I prefer not to get into it
Hmm.
because it's hard. I find it really difficult to accept the fact that my friends and family aren't vegan. They're still paying to have animals killed. And they understand everything because they've got me and I have a loud mouth.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but they still choose to eat animals. So I try not to get into it just for the sake of my own mental health. But with strangers, I'll be as militant as they come.
Interesting. I feel like I'm, yeah, similar in the way that like there's definitely, I mean, I've had really, really tough conversations with family members, and that has caused some really poor relationships in some ways. And it's not just that, because of course, anytime with family members, it's not just the topic at hand. There's
Yeah.
every other layer that's ever happened in your relationship together. So there's so much other drama that's happened, and there's so many other things. And, people hold grudges, and it's the thing that you said 10 years ago. And it's the, remember that time you didn't hold the door open for me? And I was like, I was four. I was four. Uh, so discussing it with your family sometimes can be so difficult because you would like to think that they're going to be the ones that will listen to you, but oftentimes they're not.
Yeah.
And I think like there's so many people. It's interesting. I put up a post about like what people because I got the community tab with 1,000 subscribers, and I was like, what do you want to see for future content? And surprisingly, I had so many people. The majority, the largest one was tips on how to go vegan and staying vegan, which I was shocked by because I would assume that most of my audience is vegan, and that's not what they need. But it is what people need. Even vegans need to have tips on how to stay vegan. And I think this is a big part of it, which is like choosing when to be an activist, choosing when to use this language, choosing when to like have these battles, because the stranger that you just met, and like we just moved, so like we just met our neighbors at like a 4th of July thing the other day, and of course there's animals, people are barbecuing animals and stuff like that, and eating them, and they're like, did you eat yet? And it's like, yeah, you could use that moment. And I don't want to
Yeah.
waste moments to be an activist per se, but is it the right moment? Like, am I there to be doing activism, or am I going to immediately alienate myself? And then the next time I see my neighbor, I'm not going to be able to actually like have a real conversation because they're going to already have put me in a box, and labeled me as the outcast, and like I would rather sit my neighbor down, invite him over for dinner, and then talk to them about it, like, and have a real conversation, but not like, oh, this is the first time I've met you at a 4th of July party. Like, here's what I'm all about.
Yeah,
Um,
I get it.
you know?
Sometimes your actions speak as well. So if it's a barbecue, like I've never been invited to a barbecue since going vegan because of the big old virus.
Yeah. I've
I
heard
wasn't
of
sure what
this.
to say there.
I've heard of this virus.
Mm.
It's big.
Um, but if I was invited to a barbecue again in the future, I would ask them to give me a ring when the food's done, and I'll come over, join them for a drink.
Hmm.
And, they'll either ask me questions or they'll just know. And that will get people thinking a little bit like, maybe there's something wrong with what I'm doing. But maybe some people will think this.
Yeah. Yeah. Before the virus, the big old virus,
In the
is
before times.
in the before times, I had a lot of company functions, and at the functions, of course, there's food and stuff like that, and people would go, oh, like, because I'd almost always be waiting for like a special dish.
Yeah.
It's like they'd have a buffet, and I'd go, hey, I'd go find some of the servers, and I go, hey, I'm a vegan and stuff, so do they have any other options? And they'll go make something. It's great, I love it. Like almost every time that I got a dish, everyone else is like, what is that? I want to eat it. But of course, when they're asking, they're like, why are you eating that? And
Yeah.
I would just go, oh, I'm vegan. So they prepared a vegan dish for me. And like almost never would someone immediately go, oh, really? Why are you vegan or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But inevitably, give it like an hour. It's been stewing like in their mind. And they'll eventually go, so what made you want to go vegan? And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, shit. Here we
What's
go.
your go-to if you don't want to start drama?
I just tell them exactly what it is. Like I actually started eating for plant-based reasons because I wanted to start for health, which ultimately, like I think brings down the barriers a good amount because no one's like, oh, you wanted to be healthy? Screw you. Like they're totally okay with that. So it's like I started eating plant-based, and then I started doing a bunch of research, watched a bunch of documentaries. I saw what was going on to animals, and I just couldn't partake in it anymore. So I just said, no, I'm done with this. And so now I'm vegan for the animals. And there's not usually a good follow-up question that they ask because I think they know where it's going.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it sparks really great conversations. Sometimes people, of course, jump down your throat immediately and go, start giving you some anti-vegan
Oh, but
stuff.
don't you have a smartphone?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's, I find that typically when I bring it up, it's always when someone has asked me, like, or most of the times, especially in circles and stuff like that, where like my coworkers are seeing me eat for the first time or something like that. Like I'm not going around going like, hey, just I'm vegan. Hey, just I'm vegan. Hey, just I'm vegan. I'm not like
'Cause
whispering in
we
everybody's
eat
line
three
at the
times a day.
buffet. Yeah. Like I'm just like I got a dish, they come and ask me, and then it starts the conversation from there. But unfortunately, a lot of times that still goes south. Even with strangers, we see obviously in our activist videos and stuff, conversations can go south really quick. Do you have a great go-to of like how you easily explain that?
If I just don't want to start anything, I just want to get on with my day. I always just said, I feel bad for the animals, and usually that's enough. In Asia, I get a totally different response to in Europe. People here are usually like, "Oh, that's so good of you," you know.
Yeah.
In Europe, it'd be like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But now I read something online. I think I'm going to change my response to. I just learned too much about what happens to the animals. I can't ignore it now.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's hard to combat when you just say like, I learned and I changed. Like, what's someone gonna say? Well, that was stupid. Why'd you learn and change? You should have remained ignorant, you dummy. Like, there's not a lot of fighting to that, I feel like. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty easy go to. It sometimes opens up the conversation. Sometimes they still like as soon as it's about something moral, they go, oh, okay. It starts to approach like, oh, this is maybe religion, or this is maybe something that I shouldn't be talking, especially at work functions. Like they're like, oh, are we about to touch a protected category here? Like I better back off.
You're
So
in. You in the US or Canada?
no, I'm in the States. Yeah, I'm in the US.
In the States, I think there's a certain culture in the States around talking about religion and things, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a culture about just like politics, religion. You don't talk about it, which is insane. Because it leads to a lot of really silly things and beliefs that are never challenged. But especially within work, there's you can't discriminate against somebody for beliefs they have and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of like, don't touch this topics. And
Yeah. Actually,
veganism it is becoming a protected category, but it's just one of those ones where like once it touches on something moral and they are on the opposite side of you, they just are trying to avoid confrontation most of the time. So I don't
yeah.
think it usually jumps into a huge conversation.
I was about to say veganism became a protected category in the UK like 10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure it will continue to be because vegans are hated, so people are,
Yeah.
I'm sure, getting fired because of it. I mean, my work is based out of San Francisco, and they're a very like forward-thinking company. They bring vegan meals. Well, back when the office was open, they would bring in a vegan meal every single day for everyone. So anyone that could choose, it
Oh,
wasn't like
cool.
special meals and stuff. Like they're very forward and all that sort of stuff. They do a great job of taking care of me. Like when they send out like our promo stuff or our swag and stuff, they make sure that it doesn't have leather on it. They send me vegan snacks. Like they're very good about it. But I can still tell within circles, like, oh, Walter's that guy. I even gave a talk. A part of it is I gave a talk about why everyone is vegan and how they should all live according to their morals at my work.
Oh, what? Okay.
Which was like, yeah, to like 100 people or so. It was uh, more nerve wracking than any other form of activism because, of course, I had to
Yeah, of
work with these
course.
people. And so it was a weird thing. I have it up. It's a video on my channel. You guys can all go watch it. But um, yeah, it's one of those things where I still get put into circles. It's still tough because it's like you can tell, like, especially when they start talking about, like, oh, what did we do this weekend? Everybody, oh, today's National Mac and Cheese Day. Like, let's all talk
Oh.
about. And then it's like, and Walter, for you, it's
Here's an
National.
apple.
It's National Shut Up and Don't Talk About Your Morals Day, Walter. Don't bring it up. Yeah. Chris says, sorry, that sentence was bad. Why do you guys hold so sorrow on others' eating habits? Could you guys get to the point where it doesn't bother you what others eat? Chris, thanks for bringing it back to what this whole conversation is actually about. Because veganism is not a diet. When someone says something like this, and I totally appreciate where you're coming from, Chris, and a good part of this conversation, if you haven't been on, is like how veganism and that word vegan is synonymous with diet in our society. You go look it up in the definition in the dictionary. Vegan's going to talk about diet. It's going to talk about how it's different than vegetarian diets and stuff like that, but it's all going to be about diet. When you talk to somebody on the streets about veganism, the first thing that comes to mind is something about food. So I totally understand where you're coming from and why the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, this is just food. And wouldn't you just be okay with other people's like food choice? Why would you ever get to a point where someone's food choice doesn't bother you? Unfortunately, like no, because people's food choice, whether it's vegan food or not, does bother me if there's a victim involved and if there's suffering involved. And because veganism is not a diet, it's not like you do want to eat a plant-based diet, but veganism is about avoiding hurting animals as far as is possible and practical. And then there's also other things that not eating plant-based diets does to our planet, to our health, to other human beings. There's a lot of suffering that's involved. So like in the video, Rhys was talking about it earlier, there's like an example about the black shirt, and it's like, let's just say that a black shirt caused animals to die, environmental damage, human suffering, and all this sort of stuff. And someone said, like, will you ever get to the point where just black shirts don't bother you? No, because if black shirts were causing an immense amount of suffering, it's going to bother me because I care about all the other sufferings. So yeah, no, that's what it is there. You also commented, I don't personally think animals as a who. Why not? I love that you're honest about that. I love that you're being forward, but why not? Why don't you consider animals a who? What do they have to be considered a who to you? I'd love to know. Put in the comments. Let's see here. It looks like everyone's kind of going off on that. I know. Even now selling Amy, even now seeing those videos, I'm just like, that'll never be me. I think they were talking about vegans that are quitting and long-term vegans
Oh, I see.
that quit veganism. That's part of this language too, though. I mean, it's like, again, there's so many YouTubers and famous people and celebrities that end up being such a letdown because they come out and they're, I'm vegan, I'm vegan, I'm vegan. And we're like, yes, this is going to spread to a lot of people. And I think overall it's still good, even if they were only plant-based for a certain amount of time. But so many people don't actually mean they're vegan. They are just like everybody else where they're associating veganism with a diet and they just mean that they're eating plants. That's it. And some of them, again, they're not even eating exclusively plants. They'll say they're vegan, but they still eat other animal products like fish or honey or eggs or something else, or they're plant-based, but they buy plant-based products and they don't care about like, oh, this contains milk powder, but whatever. And blah, like, and it is rough to see those people quit. But I think like many vegans and vegan activists bring up, they never probably were really bought into any of the moral aspects of it. I don't think you easily quit your moral stances and change them. What do you think about that, Rhys? Like in all the celebrities that have quit over time, and stuff like that. Like they quit veganism. Can you quit veganism? Is that a thing?
I did. when I was vegan for 1 year when I was 16, and then
Wow,
I
you
quit.
quitter.
Yeah.
Or let's shame him. Everyone shame
But
Rhys. Shame him in the comments. Shame him hard.
um, but it's exactly like you said. I never bought into the moral philosophy. I never even looked into it. I just thought, we shouldn't eat meat because we're killing animals. And I thought we probably shouldn't eat cows and chickens because they're not ours, right? They don't belong to us. I
Yeah.
never really figured out the part where we actually kill chickens and cows for eggs and milk. And then I was 16. I was a teenager. I think the reason I quit then was I had no support really.
Mhm.
I knew nobody like me. I didn't really know any vegetarians really at that time either.
Yeah.
So I just didn't have that support network even online. And then I started drinking as well at that time. And when I started drinking, my morals went out the window. I just do what I want when I'm drunk. Started eating
Did
like
you
pizza and stuff.
did you give up the drinking, or did you give that up?
I drink occasionally. I haven't drank in a few
Okay.
months now, but
So you're not a quitter. You're not a
no.
quitter. You're still going.
But I think it's right to say that I wasn't vegan at that time. I was on a
Yeah.
plant-based diet at that time.
Well, and the studies show most people that quit veganism, basically that stop eating plant-based diets, are doing it not because of health reasons. Most of the time, it's not because of some problem they were having. It's not because of anything like that. It's all about like their social surroundings. It's all about how supportive of a group they have. So another like tip, people are always saying that they wanted tips about going vegan, and we'll do some more videos about that in streams. But that's a big one. Like you've got to get a supportive circle. You've got
Yeah.
to meet some other vegans. You can't, I mean, think about anything in your life. Let's just say you wanted to try a new fashion piece out and you wanted to do bangs or something, and then all of a sudden everyone told you how stupid you were for having bangs. And they gave you all these dumb excuses as to why bangs were dumb. And all they did was like fight you all the time and then, send you pictures of long hair, and just dumb stuff all the time. You probably wouldn't keep the bangs. Even if you love them, the reality of
Yeah.
human nature is you're probably going to give up the bangs. And that's how it
Yeah.
is. Um, like I don't hold it against people who buy from unethical companies. I would stay away from certain companies and products, but don't care what others do. Um, Chris, did you put down why you don't think animals are a who? I don't see that. Like, let's see here. Here's this. Like, if we invented a way to talk to animals and humans, and they express true feelings and thoughts, then I could seriously reconsider my views. So, are you suggesting, Chris, that communication is why you don't like consider them a
Do you, do you
who?
think
Because
do you think Thai people are a who because you don't speak Thai?
that's yeah, I was going to bring that up. Or like, let's just hypothetically say that aliens came down and they couldn't understand us, so they wanted to exploit us like crazy. Would they be justified because they don't speak our language, or do you think we should still not suffer? Is a who based on their communication skills? Mentally challenged people can't probably communicate with you as easily. So are they not who's? So love to know your answer to that, Chris. Chris, stop fighting. We're gonna get you, man. Like you're gonna be a vegan. I don't know why you're fighting this so hard. Just give in, man. Let's see. Brianna Easy Breezy Vegan put in here. One of my top three reasons was to stick it to big pharma. Yeah. Yeah, like I want to be super clear here and make sure that like we're not mudding the definition of veganism even more, because again, veganism is specifically a moral philosophy about avoiding harming animals, and as far as is possible and practical. But uh, with that being said, there's so many ways that people come into that philosophy. There's so many ways that people start to drop their barriers. Some are for health. Some people started as a vegetarian or something else and maybe had some sort of inkling for animal ethics. Some people do start as environmentalist. They might not ever actually buy into the vegan philosophy. So they might not actually ever be vegan per se, but there's a lot of different reasons. And yeah, I remember when we watched a documentary, Easy Breezy Vegan and I, we saw like how the industry has been so deceiving and stuff like that. We're like, wow, screw them. Like, we're not going to be a part of the system. Of course we are. You can't escape it. But like, yeah. What do you think about that with the vegans that come in and what do you think about activism? Talking about the other parts of activism with health and environmentalism and stuff.
I think any way for you to get you off animal products is a good way because the animals don't care why you're doing it. But like I said earlier, if you're environmental, you might still go to the zoo. If you're on a plant-based diet, you might have a cheat day. Whereas if you're vegan for the animals, very hard to do that. So I think it's really, really effective as a way in. I know a lot of people, you included, who didn't start for the animals. But
Yeah.
even when you were on your plant-based diet, the animals were benefiting from that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it's I love how humans try to label everything, and we really try to simplify everything. It's a part of our language. It's a part of how we're trying to communicate with everybody to make it easy to understand. But it's hard to say, like, even I started for health reasons and stuff because I have no idea psychologically how many things were in my head for animal rights. Like I have no idea what was in my brain. I have no idea how many seeds other people planted. I have no idea, like, even though one time maybe I never even registered that I was seeing animal activists or something, they were holding up a sign, or someone in movies when they would throw blood or fake blood red paint onto fur and stuff
Mm.
like that in the movies. And like you watch movies all the time when you're a kid about 101 Dalmatians and how bad that is. And the villains in every movie are basically hurting animals. like, uh, so like, yes, I say like, you know what, I started for health reasons and stuff, but you just never know. Like, you really never know, like all the reasons that were stacked up into your brain that made you finally flip that switch and change. Which is why I'm also a proponent of, like, you know what, anything that we can bring up to get people to lower their guards, we should be using it. If somebody, I come from a sales background, and I've been doing professional sales pretty successfully for like the last 15 years. And like if somebody is, I used to own a painting company as a good example. If I go inside and someone says, you know what, all I care about is that it's the right shade of red,
Mhm.
that's all I care about, is just the shade of red that it is. And I go, okay, cool. Well, let me talk to you about how long this paint's going to last, because that's really what's important. Screw what you want. I'm going to talk about red paint or how long the paint's going to last. I'm not going to talk about colors with you. I will not get that sale. They will not go with me. They will not be convinced of my position. They don't
Yeah.
care. But if I can go, hey, you know what? This color of red, and we go through colors, and I get them in by talking about red first, and they go, wow, this is really good. But I, in the back of my head, really want them to buy the best quality of paint because I want it to last a long time or something. I could go, hey, you know what's going to keep that red vibrant for a really long time is a really good quality paint. And that's something else that you should care about, right? Because if you want it to be lasting a long time and you don't want it to look like a faded pink, you should probably, do this. And
Mhm.
so I just think like whatever we can do, like, but that's how people work. People are selfish. I am of the belief that I'm not convinced that there is such a thing as a truly selfless action. Um, and because of that, I think we have to appeal to people's selfish parts, even if the selfish part is that they're going to feel good about living in alignment with their morals about not hurting animals.
Yeah.
Um, so you know that's what makes sense. Yeah, what are your cats saying? I don't have cats. I don't know where this conversation has gone in here, but Chris, cats communicate. Like my dog communicates to me all the time. Like my dog wants out. My dog tells me that they want out. They scratch at the door. They bark at me. My dog is constantly wanting treats, and my dog constantly gets treats. Too many treats, probably. Uh, you know, my dog doesn't tell me what the Pythagorean theorem is, but my dog definitely communicates to me. So I don't think that there's, again, and this is exactly what you're saying. And like I said, they aren't on the same field as humans. No one's saying that. No one is arguing that. You're absolutely right. They're not. Uh, if I judged animals by their intelligence or ability to communicate, and that's how I judged their values and their reason to for us to respect them, then you're right. I wouldn't value them at all. But I don't judge a hawk on how well it can swim, and I don't judge a fish by how well it can fly. Like you're right, they're not the same. They're not as intelligent. I'm not. Vegans are not advocating for all the rights to be the same. Like I'm not advocating for animals to be able to vote, to be able to drive cars, to be able to go to school. None of that. But they are sentient. they do have feelings. They have the ability to suffer and to feel pain. And for that reason, I don't think that we should inflict it on them. Because why should we when we don't have a reason to do that? We can easily choose alternatives. We should respect them just like we would respect other people. And again, we talked about some of the other who's that you might not give who to, mentally challenged people, people that you can't communicate because they speak a different language and stuff. Just because they can't communicate that doesn't mean that we should breed them, kill them, and eat them. What is this?
This is As You're in Basic. They have a vegan animation channel.
Oh, I love it. I'll have to check that out. Everyone go check them out. I don't think I've seen your content before, but hello, welcome to the stream. We are cats ourselves. Meow. I knew that we had some talking animals on our stream today. I could just feel it. I could feel it in my bones. Let's see here. Easy Breezy and Chris Koch. My dog never stops talking to me. She's always needing something. Yeah. Yeah. Our dog is very much like a cat. And again, like it's what's important. Like, because when you're hurting an animal to try to kill them and eat them, are we going like, hey, I'm gonna poke you, and if you don't clearly communicate to me with words that you don't like this, I'm gonna keep going? Is them running away in fear? Is them whimpering? Is them like shouting and screaming? Is that not clear enough communication? Like if you came and hurt me and I didn't tell you in words that I was being hurt, but I was crying and stuff. Like if you saw kids bullying another kid in the parking lot and they were crying and everything, but they weren't using their words, is that not good enough? Like, I don't think so. I think that's definitely good enough for us to go, hey, yeah. Plus, we have a ton of science that we know that they're sentient beings and they have the ability to feel pain and suffering. So, so that's where I'm coming from. I think it's perfectly moral for animals that can be eaten or farmed or used for other gains of humans. But why?
The thing is, I try to live by the philosophy that I don't do to other people what I don't want done to me. Right? You can't just think from the human perspective. What can I get from this? You have to think from the place of that individual. Your choice to eat a bacon sandwich is killing a pig. You have to think, if you were that pig, would you want that? If the pig was the highest species and we were being farmed, would you be okay with that? I don't know. I don't know how well you know this guy. I don't want to insult him, but I think it's a really selfish mindset.
No, it is. Yeah, it's totally. You're exactly right. It's what can I get out of this situation? And for Chris, it sounds like for you, it's like whatever taste, gains, entertainment, and it's all about what you can get. But it's at what cost? And again, I think this is a good example, Chris, where like, okay, maybe you don't care about animals at all and stuff, but do you feel this way about humans? Like, does human suffering bother you? Like, if you found out that like a product that you were using was like in this black shirt, and you found out that they use like terrible work conditions, the workers are getting PTSD, they have higher rates of suicide and domestic violence and stuff like that as a result of their work conditions and where they are, would you continue to buy that black shirt, or would you just get the one next to it that has ethical like production? Like if you have two black shirts, like why not just choose the one that doesn't cause harm? And then I think that's for animals or humans and stuff. But I'd like to know what you think about that for sure. Amy says 50% selfish mindset, 50% specious mindset. Yeah. I think this is another word. Let's talk about it. Speciesism.
I just had some thoughts. Yeah. I was going to ask you, do you use this word much in your activism, or do you prefer to avoid it?
No, I don't use it. I don't really care for it, honestly. The reason why I don't really care for speciesism is because we are speciesists. Like I think it's good to know about it, like, and I think it's good as a term, like it does define a thing. So I'm not against like the word existing or something, or I'm not against other people using it. Like I said, I'm a pretty big proponent of like all forms of activism. And I think if this connects with people, I think it's great. But I am a speciesist, just like I was just talking about, like where I am going to show favor to certain species for certain things. Like that's how it's going to be. Like I'm not going to, say that all species should be treated exactly the same. it is based off of traits, not just the fact that they are that species. But again, I think like then we're gonna have to get into this. I think as far as we get down to the rabbit hole there, it's like, oh, what are we even talking about anymore? Like,
Mhm.
it's like we have to define what this is, and then we have to. I personally just don't find it super useful because I don't think people are like really care about the term. But I'm happy to change my mind on that if somebody has an argument against that and why I should use that term and explain it to people. But it's already hard enough to get people to not associate veganism with a diet. So I don't usually like to go down other terms that I don't think people are going to connect with. But
Yeah.
what do you think?
I think within activism, speciesist, carnist, these sorts of words are terms that are going to turn your audience off straight away if they're not already vegan. I don't mind talking about speciesism in a vegan context, in a vegan circle, and I think it's important to know about. But like you, Walter, I am speciesist. I do feel that humans are more valuable, but I also know that if I was another animal, I wouldn't think humans are the most valuable.
Yeah.
We only think this because we are this. You know, there's no reason humans are at the top. We're just the most intelligent animal. We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. We're just us. That's why we think we're the best. You know, it's quite egotistical. But
yeah, I love using examples like that because it's like people are like, well, yeah, but they can't do this. Chris, it's a good example where you're like, well, yeah, but they can't talk. It's like, Chris, can you fly? Can you see at night when it's pitch black? Can you swim as fast as a dolphin? There's so many things that you can't do that animals can. Like, what's so important about communication? Like, what's so important? That's the trait that we should choose to be like, you know what? How we decide if a species is valuable or not is like if they can talk to us or if they can do X, Y, Z, how intelligent they are, how this or that or whatever it is. It's like, why isn't it based off of if they feel pain or not? Like, why isn't it based off of their sentience? I want to know, why is communication the thing, you know?
You know what's interesting about that is, like us, pigs have body language and I'm pretty sure they have vocal language too, to some extent.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they can communicate through scent, which is something that we can't do.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, get away from me, I just crap my pants.
I often, if I'm around a circle of non-vegans and I don't want to talk about veganism, I just shit myself.
Yeah.
Scent talking. I'm scent communicating to everyone. Get away. Yeah, no,
that was the end
right.
of my point.
No,
Yeah.
okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, there's so many things that we can't do. And if, let's say that other animals again were super strong and an animal like had moral reasoning like we did, let's just say a gorilla, you know, for the sake of like evolution, and maybe like there was a bonobo or something that was in between the steps and they had moral reasoning and they could even communicate a little bit like that, and they happened to be like 3 times as strong as I was. Would it be
Yeah.
fair for them to go, you know, you can't even lift 3 times your body weight? Yeah, I'm going to kill you. Like, why is that determine my value? Like, why would that be the judgment? Why is it my strength? Why is it the intelligence? Why is it any of these things? What's the trait and why is it that trait? Why do you value that trait so much? Um, you know what I'm saying? Oh, easy breezy
I know what you're
vegans.
saying.
You know what I'm saying? Oh no, Chris just said everything in moderation. Walter's going to be triggered. Walter just gets triggered all the time. Let's see here. Can it be better to reduce? Can we just accept everything in moderation? Oh boy, am I getting triggered? I don't know. Rhys, am I getting triggered? Play the piano and calm me down, Rhys. Rhys, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Everything in moderation. People say this a lot. So, Chris, again, we totally understand where you're coming from. We've heard this a lot.
Yeah, I get
guarantee
it.
Rhys does. So,
And you're right, it is better. When we're talking about like meatless Mondays and reducing and things like this, I try not to use the word better. I try to use the words less bad, because it is still bad to eat some. You know, it's still bad to eat one rasher of bacon a week because an animal still dies. If it's like the beginning of your, what's the word, process, maybe, like it took me a few weeks to go fully vegan. If it's the beginning, you're just eating what you have left in your house, something like that, I agree with you there. If your goal is to just reduce in 2021 in America, I mean, you know, you can do better.
I'm gonna have a hot take.
Okay.
Hot take here. Veganism is reducitarianism. There you have it.
Okay.
People get like mad because they're like, oh, well, that's just reducitarianism. That's not veganism. Like, and again, I think this goes back to like, what is veganism? Does the journey ever end? And no, it doesn't, because it's a moral philosophy of how to do it as far as is possible and practical. Uh, Veganism is reducitarianism. It is moderation. It's just with clearly defined lines. Like, again, because vegans still exist, we still cause harm. Like, it's impossible to exist without causing harm. When we go vegan, there is not all of a sudden like this perfect vegan and we haven't eliminated all suffering. That doesn't happen. Like, that doesn't happen when we go vegan. It is moderation. It is reducitarianism. It's just got some clearer structure to it, because what's possible and practical for most is to avoid all animal food products, clothing products, products that are like tested on animals for the most part. And then, for entertainment choices, that's possible to avoid. So it's like reducing, and that's the thing. We haven't eliminated suffering. We're just there. Like, there was another person that brought up the comment of like, why can't we just meet in the middle? And this is basically what this is like, let's just
Mhm.
meet in the middle between like meat eaters and what vegans want. And it's like, well, what is the middle? Like, what if I say, what I want is everyone to be completely on a whole food, plant-based diets, only eating the amount of calories they need, because that's what would be best for our survival and stuff. What's the middle between that and like the standard American diet or the standard diets that most people eat? I'll tell you what it is. It's veganism. Like, it's what veganism currently is. That is already a sacrifice. Like, we're already not going as far as we possibly could. We are doing the least amount that's possible. So I think
Yeah.
it is meeting in the middle there. And again, when it's talking about moderation, like, and we're talking about morals, it's something that we morally oppose. Like, I don't think kicking dogs is okay for pure enjoyment. If somebody else thinks kicking dogs for enjoyment is fantastic and they want to kick 100 dogs, do I meet them in the middle and go, let's just kick 50 dogs? Like, I'll kick 50 dogs, you kick 50 dogs, or like, we want to hit 50 total, so I'll do 25, you do 25? Like, no, we wouldn't do that. Like, we wouldn't do it with any other moral situation. We wouldn't say, you know what, we want to eliminate slavery. And then people are like, well, can't we just meet in the middle here? Can't we just reduce slavery? Like,
Mhm.
people did do that, you know, but that's not what you want. When you're fighting for something moral and you're against it entirely, although you accept that it's going to come in stages of reduction, it's going to come in stages of moderation. We accept that the whole world's not going to go vegan tomorrow. We accept that it's going to happen in stages. We accept that people are going to do little bits at a time and stuff like that. We want it to change faster, but that's never going to be our goal. We're never going to be okay with like moderation. We want it to end. We want animal suffering within agriculture and products being tested on animals to be done. We don't want it to be reduced. And again, veganism is already reducitarianism. It's just got it's got clearly defined lines, and even then, it's not really clearly defined because it's possible and practical. Which is what we've been talking about this stream. It's like eating animals for someone who needs it to survive. I would say they're still a vegan. Like, if they're trying in every other aspect to reduce their animal suffering, they don't go to circuses. They don't exploit them for entertainment. They try their hardest with products to not be tested on animals and all this sort of stuff. Like, and then like their parents force them, it's a teenager, and their parents force them to eat dairy. Like, man, they're a vegan. They're trying as hard as they can. They are a vegan. They've reduced as far as is possible and practical for them. Chris, what's possible and practical for you here in the States, living in a modern society, is to avoid animals entirely for your diet and for entertainment and for most of your other products. Like, it's so for you, I would say that's where you should be. And again, I'm going to get you. I don't know why you're fighting so hard. You're going to be vegan.
I do like to remind people that being vegan is at best a neutral position.
Yeah.
You're not putting any good in the world by not killing.
No,
you're just not killing.
You're not saving animals like actively going out there and giving them homes. You're not going out there and like making sure that every animal is okay ever. You're literally just not contributing and funding their exploitation and murder. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
it's the bare minimum. It's like the bare minimum that you could do. That's a great point.
Like,
That's a great
not
point.
being racist doesn't make you a good person.
No, I mean, it is good.
It's good. It's good, but it makes you neutral, right?
Everyone, this is not a hot take. We should not shame Rhys for being a racist. But I just want to make sure everyone knows it's not a hot take. Yeah, no, it's a neutral position. You're just not actively discriminating You're not out there
Yeah.
advocating. You might be, and that's great if you are, but like you're not. You're just not being racist. And in all reality, you are. Everyone's racist. You just need to acknowledge it and figure out what to do with it, how to be better, because you were born with biases and raised with them. Um, Side tangent that I'm not going to touch on. Just gonna throw it out there real fast and then escape it.
That's a real hot take.
That's a real hot take. Well, I think it's just inevitable. Like we were talking about where we're speciesists, like we do have a bias towards our own species, and it's
Right.
not merited by anything. Like every species does. Like their goal is to like survive. If animals had to choose between their own babies versus another species babies, they could have the same level of intelligence, communication skills, strength, whatever traits you want to use. They're most likely going to save their own babies. And it's even if it wasn't their biological babies in their species, they'll probably do it. I mean, rats, they've proven that like if they aren't associated, white rats will go into drowning mice and they'll save the white rats instead of like the black rats in water that are drowning. If they
Wow.
associate them ahead of time and they get used and familiarized with the other colored rats, they will save both. But they'll choose more alternatively. But like, yeah, I think we all have biases. Like, and you cannot escape the fact that you do. Like, we were raised in a society where there was media constantly showing us like what race is supposed to be doing what things, what gender roles are supposed to be doing what things.
Right.
That's deeply ingrained into us and our society. So to say that like you're not a racist, I think is missing the point, because I think really we all are. And it's just that, just like with speciesism, you need to acknowledge that you have the bias. It's not merited, and that's not how you should value life forms, is based off of skin color, gender, sexual preference, body ability, species, etc. Hot take. I didn't want to get into that, but I did. Shouldn't be a hot take, I don't feel like. It's going off in the chat here. You guys are all arguing with Chris. Chris, stop fighting. You're a vegan now. Just like give in. Yeah. That's another point that I'd bring up with activism, is just like try to be lighthearted and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Rhys does such a good job with this, everybody. Like there's good humor. Your most popular video is this Cadbury egg video, and I'm not even going to tell people what it is. They should just go watch it. But it's so good. It's great humor. And although plenty of people hate you in those comments, because they did not finish the video. So if you go watch this video, everyone, which you should, finish it. Finish it for sure. I have no idea what's going on now over here, because you guys are going off. Bring up all the social justices with the Thai King and see where that gets you.
I need to be
Rhys,
careful
where does that
what
get
I'm
you?
saying here. No, I need to be careful because I'm using Thai internet. There's a very small. No, seriously, you can't badmouth the king in Thailand.
Don't do it. He's a great guy. I love him.
I'm just looking at your earlier comment there. Thailand was racist and segregation. It's very true that foreigners have separate lines. We pay separate prices for some things, things like that. And then you say we don't see that in America, but to most of the world, America is quite a racist country.
Yeah.
At least the UK. The UK is pretty racist too, but we see America as a really racist country. We can't believe it's still going on.
Yeah, well, and what happens within America is also different than what we do with other countries, like in how we treat them and how we, get trade and how we, export our labor to areas that aren't great and stuff like that. And we pay very different prices for that labor than what we would in the States. So I wouldn't say America's like in the clear of being morally virtuous when it comes to that. But, this isn't a stream about America. Please no, I don't want to talk about it. Chris, so if we got invaded by aliens who could eat plants but wanted to farm humans, would you be cool being farmed? Yeah. I mean, no, you wouldn't. And I think I've even asked Chris this type of a question before previously in comments on another video. And I think, Chris, you even like at one point in time was like, yeah, whatever, slavery. Like, and like, I think you weren't being genuine. And I think this is typically where these questions end up going, is like either someone's going to come to terms with them and go like, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm actually not being logically consistent here because I don't actually have a trait that makes sense. Or they're going to be pushed to some extreme where they're going to go
double down.
Yeah, slavery is fine. Like you have to say something absurd basically to get away with this. like this. I could communicate with aliens and not stand for that. But if aliens did come here and wanted to control us, they would, but I would die fighting. Yeah, you
The
wouldn't
animals
think
you eat die fighting.
they die fighting. Go watch pigs and gas. Go watch my pig video and see what happens there. Go watch Rhys's video about eggs and things like that, and cows and everything that's happening to these animals. They die fighting. They scream. They thrash. They're just like you. Like they might not communicate with English or any sort of language, but they're out there fighting. And like this is exactly the point, Chris. You would not be okay with them doing this. So you're not okay with a higher species treating you like you're not worthy of being alive. You would go fight them. Like, and if anything, I think when a species is even less, like they're more vulnerable, we should take care of them more, right? Like, I think about like even within our species, like just because mentally challenged people can't necessarily communicate with me the same way, or maybe they're never going to achieve this really fancy job or whatever it is, like I think we have a moral obligation to take care of them more, not to breed them, farm them, and kill them. Like they're less, if they're less capable, I think we have a moral obligation to help them even more than the really capable people. So I think this is the circumstance with the aliens here. Like if they came down, you would want to die fighting. You would want to go fight them. You would want them to help you. You would want them to share their technology with you. You would want them to share that so you could stay alive longer. And so that way you could live your life as free as possible. Same thing. Same thing that the animals want. They just want to go live as free as possible. And they would like our help instead of us to go and, stun them and stick a knife in their throat. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, because I'm on a different playing field than animals. Just like you'd be on a different playing field with the aliens. Chris, why are you fighting? Give up. You're going to be a vegan, Chris. We'll get you. We'll get you, man. Chris is, you know what, Chris, what I do love is that you come, you watch the videos, you bring up your points, you're willing to express them. There are plenty of people that don't do that. Like, and you've never once like sent over a message of bacon or a picture of that or whatever. You're coming with arguments. I think they're logically flawed. I think you're going to be a vegan. I'm going to get you. But I love that you're at least willing to express your opinion. You're willing to talk about this. I think that's great. And I think that's the first step to learning about anything. And whether you change or not, like at least you're trying here. And I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the honesty here. Quick reminder here, because we're going to wrap up soon. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and make sure that all the links for Rhys's YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, except for I'm not sure that I linked anything to the podcast. I'll change that. Is the podcast on Spotify and everywhere too?
Yeah, it is, but it's also on YouTube anyway.
Yeah, well, some people don't like that. Some people don't pay for YouTube Premium, and they want to listen in there on Spotify and other places. Probably you can probably find it wherever you can find podcasts, I would assume.
I mean, it is free on YouTube on my channel.
But then they can't, like, if they play it and then they close their phone, it's going to go on. Because YouTube is,
you're right.
Because YouTube's great. What am I saying? YouTube's awesome. The Thai King is listening. The Thai King of YouTube. I don't want YouTube to get mad at me. Yeah, let's see here, Chris. I think my arguments are fine. Also hard to say just through text. Yeah, I know. Chris, I keep saying we need to have you on the channel. We can do this. We can even do a live stream. Although I think we should probably pre-record yours because I know it's going to get weird. So I don't want to post it if it's going to get me banned off of YouTube. But I do keep saying this. We need to have you on, Chris. We're gonna make you vegan. The whole chat here is trying to help you. And I see it happening. Thanks everyone for chiming in here. Since we're going to wrap up, I'm just going to ask if there's any last questions for anybody that's on. If you want me to ask anything to Rhys, if you want me to address any of these specific comments that I didn't get to, please feel free to like post them again right now. While that's happening, Rhys, I'd love to hand it over to you for like any closing thoughts about this video and what we should do here about, we only covered every single topic basically. So closing thoughts on all of veganism.
Okay. In an everyday context, calling veganism a diet or referring to things as vegan when you're just referring to food, I think it's fine. Don't worry about it. When we're talking about veganism as a philosophy, that's when we can get more into the definitions. We can start calling things plant-based. We can start saying vegan or environmentalists. We can make that distinction. But just in your everyday speech, I don't see much of an issue, really. I do it. Walter probably does it. I mean,
all the time.
Yeah.
I don't like that I do it. I'd say that's my closing thoughts here is that I do it. I conflate veganism with food, with diet, not during activism and stuff, because of course I'm much more intentional during that time. But when I'm in like random questions or random conversations, or I'm just like at the store and stuff, especially when I'm just talking to like Brianna or someone else that's vegan, I'm gonna go make sure it's vegan. Like,
Yeah.
grab that, make sure it's vegan. Let's scan that one. Let's make sure it's vegan. Like I constantly say that when I'm at the restaurant and I'm ordering, I go, hey, yeah, I'm vegan, and I don't jump into all the moral philosophy behind it right then and there. I usually just say, make sure the food is vegan, but what I do acknowledge is that this causes trouble. It causes trouble because this is the exact response I get all the time from people, which is like, it's just food. It's just food. It's just a food choice. And I hate that veganism has become synonymous with food because it very much muddies the message of what it's actually about, which is a moral philosophy about avoiding harming animals as far as is possible and practical. So I don't think it's completely avoidable unless, again, we ditch the word vegan and come up with a new word, like veganites or veganators or vegoons. I liked all the suggestions. Keep bringing those on if we have new words for veganism, or if we continue to just fight and make sure that everyone knows what veganism really is. I think the really cool part about new vegans is that they usually have done a lot of research. Like they usually have gone into it and they really do know most of the time what that real definition is from the Vegan Society. Most people have stumbled upon that. So I think right now there's not that many vegans. So it's synonymous with diet because most people just think that's what it is. But as the vegan population grows, I think the word veganism will start to carry more of like, no, this is about morals. And I don't think it's going to be about environmental morals. I don't think it's going to be about health. I don't think it's going to be about those things. Those things are going to be tied in. I think they're valuable tools to try to get people to lower their guards and stuff. But I do think that the word veganism will start to talk more about the moral philosophy, because I also think in the future, we always talk about this of like how when the whole world goes vegan and stops eating animals, stops exploiting them and stuff like that, the word will just go away. But the word will only go away if it's synonymous with diet, like because then there will be no point to distinguish between diets because everyone will be eating a vegan diet. But we'll never be done eliminating all animal suffering. So the philosophy will not be going away. So at that point in time, the word has to either die or transform to be more in alignment with what we want it to be as a definition. So eventually that's going to happen. Also, shaming is okay. That's my closing thought. I see some things in here. Oh, that's a bit long. New word. Let's see here. New word. Liberationism. You're right. That's too long. I can't even say it one time. Very interesting thought, Walter. Yeah, thank you. It's because I can't pronounce this long word and stuff. Let's see here. Chris, one last thing from you. I'll answer all of these major hater comments in a respectful manner. And let's go live. I know the rules and won't say or do anything that would be against terms of service. Cool. I appreciate it. Yeah, Chris, send me another message on Facebook, Chris, or on Instagram or wherever. Let's all do it. And then we can talk about PETA there. I see that message. We can talk about PETA. If you want an amazing video, seriously, I'll use one of my curses here. If you want like a fucking amazing video about PETA, go to Rhys's channel. It's so good. Literally like a little mini documentary exposing a lot of the stuff and the claims about PETA. And I learned a lot. I found it so insightful. Absolutely go watch that video and go subscribe to Rhys's channel. I'm going to end the live stream. So thanks for coming on. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And then Also, I'll stay in the chat here for a bit if anybody has any remaining last questions or anything like that. Chris, send me a message on Facebook or anything. Thank you again, Rhys, for coming on. I appreciate it so much. Everyone, check Rhys out. Rhys, you're the best, man.
It's an absolute pleasure. I don't even mind that you were here too. It was good.
There you have it, everyone. It's now Rhys's channel. He's taken over, and I'll make appearances from time to time. Everyone, thank you very much. Until next time, stop looking at what you can't do and start looking at what you can do. Thanks.